Welcome to Line Weights and Color Palettes. This is where you're really going to get familiar with the materials that you bought, especially your ink and your watercolor. So I've got everything laid out here. First thing you should do is cut a sheet of paper from your watercolor pad. So I cut mine to be roughly the size of my palette here. And the good thing about that is I can lift this portion of the palette, stick it under there, and carry it with me wherever I go. But you could also just put it in your bag, whatever's easiest for you. On the back side, I flipped it over first. I'm just going to use my ink, all the different line weights. So you see that it ranges from 0.005 line weight all the way up to 0.08. So you just want to familiarize yourself with what this translates to as you're sketching. So you're going to practice a couple things here. You're going to practice your architectural lettering and then also line making. So I've done a few already, but the idea is you're just going to make sample lines here that you can refer back to. So this is my 05 line that I've already written, and you want to use the same pressure for each line that you're creating so that you can get a good idea of the difference between the line weights. You don't want to push too hard because you could damage the tip of the micron. So just kind of a slow and steady, even pressure as you make your lines. And now I get a good sense of the gradient between the line weights, and then I can refer back to this as a little cheat sheet later. So that's on the back. On the front, I went ahead and wrote down all of the colors from my color palette, and you can look at the side of the little wells, and it has printed on there what the colors are, or if you haven't unwrapped them yet, you'll find it on the top of each one. They're easy to get in and out. You just kind of pull on the little metal tab, and then you can lift them out pretty easily. And they slide as well, so you can get them around the side. So after I wrote them all down, I just get a sense of what I'm working with, because I noticed a pitfall before of some students is that they think they're using a nice sunshine yellow, but really it ends up looking like a lemon yellow, and it's just because they haven't tested the colors. And they look very different in the palette versus on paper. So that's the first thing you want to do, is just get familiar with it. So I've got my water cup here as well, and I've started, these have already dried, so you kind of get an idea of what we're working with here. So now I'm on yellow ochre. So see how I'm just loading the brush with water. You don't need too much for this because you're just making a small little blob of color. And then I'm going to go over to the yellow ochre, and I'm loading up my brush. Again, not too much, but you want it to be saturated enough so the color comes through pretty strongly. So that's a pretty good amount there. And then you're just going to leave it. Just let it dry. So I'm going to rinse off that color and then move on to the next Indian red. And same thing here. And if it doesn't look like it's enough color, you can always maybe dab some of the water off and then go back and get more of the color and add it in there. So there's always room to move things around with watercolor. That's one thing that's really great about it. The next one. And then after you're done, you'll have a really nice visualization of what these colors look like when they're on your sheet. And also giving you just some practice getting familiar with watercolor itself. And there you go.